Hi y'all, Lindsey Wilson here from Positive Performance and the Mental Training Entrepreneur Bootcamp. Hope everybody's well. I need to just, so I am now going to try to be doing my Facebook Lives through my public page, because then it's shareable. So sometimes people watch the videos and they want to share it with, their athlete or their team or another coach, and they can't because it's a lot of times I do them in the private groups. So let me see if I can find this video that I'm on right now and share it. Of course, I can't in a minute. But anyway, okay, so what I want to talk about today is 6 ways to evoke lasting change in another person. Now this video, a little mini training, is really great if you find yourself sitting down with an athlete, and that's whether you're a coach or I guess even a teacher or your actual mental training coach, like that person is a client, or you're just a coach sitting down with someone. And I suppose it would work for a parent as well, although as you know, probably there's some other challenges with doing it with your kid. But let me see if I can find, there we go, share. So I'm going to go into that. So that's what this is all about today. I'm doing this. Sorry, I have to share this. Shoot me a hi. Some people are live. Shoot me a hi if you're in. I'm excited about this video. I think you guys are going to get a lot out of it. Mental training. What else is my other group? There we go. Okay. So if you're in the live, say hello. Would love to hear from you. It's about 9 o'clock Pacific time. I got the kids in bed. My wine is upstairs waiting for me to drink. But I do want to do this Facebook Live real quick. And like a lot of my videos, they kind of come to me at random times. Like I'll have a conversation with a coach that's been struggling with talking to an athlete, and I'll think about it, and then all of a sudden, boom, video or a teaching concept will be in my mind. Now, okay, so let's see. Let me get back to my notes and we'll go into it. Okay, so how to evoke real and lasting change in another person. Step 1, or the first thing that you need to think about is that person ready for change? And this might seem like an obvious question, but in my experience, it's really critical because, as coaches, as athletes, as driven people, oftentimes we want change for other people. Like if someone's not living to their potential or playing to their potential, we really want to sort of pull it out of them. And I won't tell you that that's a waste of time, because sometimes they can't get to that place of wanting to make change because they have so much fear. So it's not like it's a waste of time. It's just about managing your expectations if that person is not ready for the change that you want. And you might think, okay, well, generally, if someone's like in let's say a shooting slump, then clearly they're going to want a way out. And that's true if they're in crisis, generally. I actually did another video about that too, maybe even a year ago, about negative attention. Sometimes people get caught in actually not wanting to change, even if it's for the better, or they're comfortable in that space. So them wanting to change is really important. And again, it sounds super obvious. So if they are not ready to change, it doesn't mean you can't have a sit-down conversation with them. It just means you need to change your expectations about how much change you can evoke in them, because you can only do so much, right? You can lead a horse to water. So that's step 1, is making sure they are ready for that change. Step 2 is buy-in. So one of the ways that I do this with my clients, and again, I'm talking about whether this is like a client or just an athlete that you're working with. We go into this a lot, I should say I go into this in my masterminds with entrepreneurs, because we really break down exactly what you should be working on in exactly which session. But one of the critical pieces that has nothing to do with what technique you're going to teach or even what is getting buy-in from the athlete. And so they have to be ready for that change. And then But they may be ready and they still might be skeptical, right? Especially if they don't know you. Now, probably most of you are working with people that trust you already, but maybe not. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, you may be getting clients that don't know you yet. So that second step of buy-in is really, really important. And one of the ways that I do that is making sure that they understand that this process of change is also about them trusting themselves. It's not just me sitting here on my soapbox saying, you should believe in yourself more and be more mentally tough and blah, 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 blah. It's like, you have the answers inside of you. I always tell athletes, you are a sum total of all the successes that you've had in your life. And honestly, that little mantra is a good message for all of us, right? Because we get stuck in funks and we have things that don't go how we want them to go, obviously. And so getting them to remember that and saying, and I'll say something like, you've had a lot of great games in your career. Like, what worked then? Or you've made a ton of shots, like going back to the slump. You've made a ton of shots in your career. Like, you know how to shoot the basketball. And getting them that buy-in to trust the process within themselves. And then the final thing that I say is, I'm an expert, or whatever you're an expert in. For myself, I say, I'm an expert in mental training, but you're an expert in yourself. And so that gets them on that equal footing where it's not just, okay, yes, I'm ready for change, and then Lindsey or you is sitting in front of me, someone's on giving me a thumbs up, sitting in front of me and saying, I'm the expert, listen to me and everything's going to be changed, because that's not how change works anyway. So, and then the coach it becomes an ego thing about them. And then it works against itself because it's really hard to evoke change in someone that's not into it and not bought in. Okay. So teaching them to trust themselves and like encouraging that there's inner wisdom in there. And I do that for athletes that are 11, 12, 13 years old. I don't work with those athletes a ton, but even those people, like even those that at that young age, likely they've played a lot of games, likely they have some self-awareness, not always, but even giving them that message that they do can be really helpful. Okay. Oh, Sophia, hi. Okay. Where's my notes? Finding the right person, making sure that they're ready, getting them to buy in. Okay. The third thing, and I don't know if these are, I guess these kind of are in order, but if they're not, that's okay too. Have confidence in your message. And, a lot of times we work on this a ton in my masterminds. And, I always tell coaches that are working with athletes or, sports coaches that are working with their athletes, like, you don't have to be an expert in everything to evoke change in someone, right? You don't have to know everything about mental training. You don't have to have your sports psychology degree. You have to love this person. You have to share with them. But one of the gifts that I encourage you to give to them is to have confidence in what you're doing. And this is obviously especially true if you are working with clients. But regardless, have confidence. And the reason that is so important is because it is setting that person up for success. If you're like, well, maybe this thing works, or this one tool that I tried one time, like, even if you're not exactly sure if it's gonna work, have confidence, because that gives them hope. That gives them hope that they can change. And after having done this for a long time now, I really hit this home. Like, when I sit down with a client, I don't want to oversell it either. I want them to know that it takes effort and it's not an overnight thing. So I think that's really important. But letting them understand that when they harness the power of their mind and mindset, everything can change. And when I say that, it's confident, and I know that it's true if they're willing to put in the work, which not everybody is. But that gives them hope. And when you think about someone, again, in my example of being in a shooting slump or whatever, they need a lifeline, right? And they're not going to do anything unless they know that, or they think that it can help. So give them that gift. Even if you're not entirely sure, even if you're just starting out as a mental training coach, even if you're a young sports coach, have that confidence. That is a gift to them to help them evoke that change in themselves. Okay. I think this is step 4. Live it, have lived it yourself and live it currently. So if you're asking people to push themselves, if you're asking people to be more mentally tough, if you're asking people to be positive when they don't want to be positive because they're in negative zone, they're in the pity party, if you're not living that yourself, I don't know, I can't explain to you how it comes across exactly, but it does. And maybe some of that comes back to not having confidence in the message. If you have not lived it and or living it currently, then your message is not going to be as strong. And what do I mean by that? So for a lot of things, you're going to want things to have sort of already wrapped up. Like if you're evoking, if you're trying to help someone out of a shooting slump, it's actually better if you've had a shooting slump in the past, not currently. It's a different, that's good too, but that's more of a peer-to-peer, like empathy kind of thing. But, if you're asking somebody to push themselves, you have to be on that journey too. Right? You can't be like the coach. I always joke about when I was overseas. Like I had a coach. Actually, it was a doctor sitting there like smoking his cigarettes, and he told me that I needed to lose weight. And I'm like, "Are you? Did you not get the memo 40 years ago that smoking kills you?" And you're talking about trying to be healthy. Anyway, I digress. But living that authentic message. Okay. So if you are not living it, having lived some of it in the past and living it and pushing yourself now, it just is not as, it's not as true. It's not as authentic. And people can smell that out. Okay. Number 5, and again, these aren't in any particular order. Well, they kind of are, but not exactly. Share your story. So that goes kind of back to having lived it. Let's go back to the shooting slump example. Let's say Haley is, struggling with shooting. And I go up to her and I say, Haley, you know what? You're a great shooter. Like, keep shooting. We need you to shoot. Everybody struggles with shooting sometimes. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I come at her with all that stuff. Great. Or I can sit Haley down and I can tell her about the time when I was in Slovakia and I was 0 for 10 in one of our championship FIBA Euro Cup games, and I wanted to stop shooting. I remember specifically thinking, my team is better off if I pass. But I had done a lot of mental training. And so I had been taught by my coach to say, when I miss a shot, to say, well, got that miss out of the way. And I remember specifically it coming down to the wire against this team. I don't remember who we were playing. But anyway, it was the end of the game and the ball was getting reversed. It went into the low post to our amazing, I think she was 16 years old, but she was so good, 6'5" post player. She gets double teamed. She turns, she passes to me on the far baseline for a 3-point shot. We were down by 3, of course. And I shot it. And I made it. I was 1 for 11 in that game. So I know that it's difficult to keep shooting when you're in a slump. But I've lived it. But I also know that you're a good shooter and we need you to shoot. And you just have to stay with it. You have to trust the process. Do you see how it's different? Okay, so that's different than me just telling Haley that she should shoot more. Sharing a story, especially something that you've overcome, sharing a story of a similar, if not exactly the same situation, helps an athlete really get through whatever it is they're struggling with. And I'll tell you this, and the reason that it does is because the brain, the subconscious brain, where we actually play from, where we should be playing from, that's where we do things when we're playing and we're free and we're just having fun and we're just loose and trusting ourselves. That's the subconscious brain. When we are playing with our subconscious brain, that's really what we want. And the subconscious brain thinks and understands metaphors and pictures and stories. Okay, so I can logically tell Haley that she's a great shooter and that lots of people go through shooting slumps, and she's like, yeah. And her conscious brain is like, okay, yeah, I get it. And her subconscious is like, no, this sucks. Like, I'm not gonna, I don't wanna shoot. I don't wanna be the one that just keeps missing. I don't wanna be 0 for 10. And so we have to communicate with the subconscious brain to make any real and lasting change. And stories are like the simplest way to do it. That's why we tell bedtime stories to little kids, and we teach them allegories, and we teach them, morals of the story, and all that's coming through in a story. Instead of just telling them, to go to sleep, we read them a story about some, hedgehog that can't fall asleep. And that's how we get in the brain. That's how we brainwash our little children. I'm kidding. I'm joking, of course. Well, except for sleep, I'm not joking. But stories are really powerful. So use stories when you're trying to evoke change. Finally, I wouldn't say this is the biggest one, but I think this is the biggest one that I see people not doing. And I think I know why, but this is what you should finish off when you're trying to evoke real and lasting change, is give them something actionable. Conversations are great. And sometimes talking about something and verbalizing it and labeling it and putting it out there is a healing process in and of itself, for sure. But in my experience, and maybe this is just how my mind works, giving an athlete something to work on, to do better at, to focus on, it gives them kind of an anchor, and it gives them a way to then implement all that stuff that you've been talking about in that sit down time. So, for me as a mental training coach, my go-to is a guided visualization. And that's something that I teach all of my mental training coaches to do. And I record it, and they have something, and then they have homework to do that and listen to it in their headphones. They download it on their phone. And that's super powerful. I do that with all my clients, my coaches, my athletes, my sports coaches. Like, it's just my go-to. But it's not the only thing that you can do. So other things are, let's go to the shooting slump. Let's go to Haley, the shooting slump. For example, one thing that you could give her is that mantra that I just said. When you miss a shot, you are now going to be disciplined in the self-talk that you use after you miss that shot. And it doesn't have to be, what was mine? Oh, good, I got that miss out of the way. It doesn't have to be that, but maybe some mantra that Haley can use after she shoots every single time. Other things, it could be a journaling exercise. It could be, like a mantra or some sort of positive self-talk. It could be another check-in with you on the next day. It could be, I have a lot of techniques, like worksheets, and there's a lot of little things. You could have them do some sort of visualization exercise, even if it's not a guided one. You could have Haley go through that night. You could have her visualize all of her best games. If she'd had any great shooting nights, or she'd made any game-winning shots or game-tying shots or anything like that. Like, have her do a little highlight reel exercise that night. Have her write down, that maybe an affirmation about her being a great shooter, and then visualize it. There's a lot of little actionable homework things that you can give to someone like Haley. So I would say a lot of times people miss that because I think they're not exactly sure what to sort of assign. But again, it doesn't have to be something like, it doesn't have to be a recorded guided visualization. It doesn't have to be a workbook. It doesn't have to be something big. It could be just, tomorrow I really want you to be positive in practice, and then I want to talk after practice. And I want you to see actually this is one I've done a lot. To an athlete that's like, just like struggling and just like having no fun and just is like, in their own sort of self-imposed prison with their performance. I say, tomorrow at practice, I want you to have as much fun as humanly frickin' possible. When you brick a a ball, when you air ball, I don't care. I want you to high five your teammates. I want you to laugh. I want you to have as much fun as humanly frickin' possible tomorrow. Can you do that? It's one day. Can you do that? And I've had athletes make huge progress with just that assignment, because it gets in their mind and they're like, okay, yeah, I don't actually have to be perpetuating and creating the self-imposed prison. I can actually love my sport again. And guess what? When they do, they play better. Okay. Who else is on here? I actually see a lot of people on here. Oh, I got some hearts and waves. Thanks, guys. Angie, hi. Nancy, Denise. I think there's some other people on. I can't always see everybody, but I appreciate you guys being on. And again, these are public now. So if you have somebody that you think could benefit from this, you have an assistant coach, or you have a friend that coaches, or a friend that wants to start their own mental training business, you can share this. You can send it to them. A couple other things. I think many of you will already know this, but I'm sort of dividing up my content to sports coaches that want to know about mental training, and then people that want to be mental training entrepreneurs. If you are a coach that just wants mental training, the Positive Performance Mental Training for Coaches is a great private group. I will put the link below when I get off. If someone is on already, feel free to share that. If you want to be a mental training entrepreneur and you have aspirations to own your own business, there is another group where we go into more of the business side, which is clearly not going to be interesting to coaches that don't want that. So both are going to learn about videos like tonight about mental training and how I work with clients and how I work with teams and how I evoke change and things like that. But if you're interested in the entrepreneur, definitely encourage you to check out that private group. Again, I'll put the link below. If you're just a coach that's in sports that is passionate about mental training and wants to learn that, I would definitely recommend our private group for coaches. That's it. If you have any comments, questions about this video, I will jump back on later tonight, wine in hand, and get to as many comments and questions as I can. As always, thanks for watching. My name's Lindsey Wilson from Positive Performance and the Positive Performance Entrepreneur Bootcamp. We have a lot of things happening, including some very exciting things in the next week or so, including a video series, which is going on now. I'll put that link below as well for entrepreneurs. We have an awesome ebook that does talk actually some about how to work with clients one-on-one. That's again for entrepreneurs. And then we have a webinar coming up, a masterclass training that I'm super pumped about. All that's for entrepreneurs because we're re-releasing our Mental Training Entrepreneur Bootcamp next month. So I hope everybody is having a great evening. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.